everyone. My name is Susana Prado-Swap. I'm the founder and executive director of an all-volunteer nonprofit called Vanguard Culture that works to advance San Diego's creative industry workforce. Vanguard Culture provides quality arts coverage of San Diego's arts and culture community, professional development for creatives, and unforgettable cultural events that bring diverse communities together and inspire creative collaboration across all industries. This series is made possible thanks to the support from the City of San Diego Commission for Arts and Culture, Parker Foundation, Idea One, and our professional development sponsor, Jack Limpel. Thank you so much for your support of San Diego's creative industry workforce. We could not do this without you. For more information about our programs, please visit vanguardculture.org. So welcome to the second session of our Brain Candy virtual salon series. Inspired by the French salons of the early 18th century, Brain Candy is a contemporary take on this Enlightenment-era institution, which provided a safe place for women and men to congregate for intellectual discourse. For this edition of Brain Candy, we invited some of the region's most dynamic gallerists, collectors, art appraisers, and more to discuss the ins and outs of art collecting. This is an interactive event, so we will take a few minutes to introduce each of our speakers at the top and then open it up for a full panel discussion in a very casual salon style. If you have a question for one of our speakers, please raise your hand either virtually. Should be 3 dots, and you should have the option there to raise your hand. We also encourage you to make good use of the chat box, introduce yourselves, talk to one another, ask questions, share your websites with one another. Please take a moment now to share your name, what city you're joining us from, and a website if you have it. Please also note that we are reserving the last 20 minutes of this event for anyone who would like to give us their 1-minute art pitch. So what is an art pitch? I want you to imagine that you're in an elevator with a person who could benefit your business, your career, or your art practice in some way, and you only have 60 seconds to tell them about your work. And so if you're an artist, you can say, for example, my name is so-and-so, I work in this type of medium, and I'm inspired by the way the winds erode the earth over time. If you're an art collector, please tell us what inspires you, what kind of work you like to collect. If you work for the art industry in some other way, please tell us more about your practice. And this is a really good exercise for those of you who are not used to pitching what you do. The event will be recorded and made available to the public, so please be brave today and take the opportunity to share your work with a broader audience. Our art pitch moment will happen right around 1:30. And with that, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce our first guest, Sonia Sparks. She is the chief curator of Sparks and owner of Sparks Gallery in the Gaslamp Quarter in downtown San Diego. Sonia is the owner and chief curator. As I mentioned, she studied art while obtaining her bachelor's degree in business administration at the University of San Diego. She founded Sparks Gallery in 2013 to encourage the patronage of local artists, support local arts groups and institutions, and to educate the public about Southern California artists. Sonia, welcome.
Thanks, Susanna. It's great to be here and seeing everybody supporting the arts today. And thank you for all that you do.
Oh, I was going to say thank you. Tell us a little bit about your gallery. Tell us what you're working on these days. What do we need to know if you're not from San Diego?
So Sparks Gallery is located downtown in the Gaslamp Quarter in San Diego, of course, and we represent Southern California artists. We showcase primarily, most of our artists are in the San Diego region, and that's really what I was hoping to achieve when I started the space, and be a supportive presence for the San Diego and the local art community here. So that's been our driving force, and part of our mission is to engage with the community and have artists present not only their work, but their ideas behind their work. So we've also, we hope to include other elements of art besides just the traditional painting or sculpture, photography, but hopefully also installations. We have one, you can kind of see the flowers a little bit above me. That's been featured recently in some of the press. It's been really great to have that element be brought into the space to engage and have more of an experiential art visit to the gallery.
Yeah,
so
who is the artist behind you? You didn't mention her. The name of the artist.
This is an installation by two artists that they go by CN Collective, and they hand sewed all of the plastic together with thread during the pandemic. So it was really a labor of love and a representation of how that act and the craft of stitching and creating flowers brought them together in solidarity, but also mentally through that presence of creation, and hopefully tying themselves to the community of others through their message of support for other females who are going through the same thing. So
yeah, you definitely you've definitely accomplished your goal, I think, of getting the community, bringing the community together in your beautiful space. If you haven't been to Sparks Gallery in downtown, make the effort to do so. It's a wonderful space and very multifaceted. You have a bar, that you can create or have access to when you have events, for example. And it's just been a really wonderful force in downtown. So congratulations. Okay, so we are going to hang out with us for a little bit. We'll bring you back in just a minute. Okay, our next guest is Elsie Ardando. Elsie is the founder and owner of ENA Art Group, where she leads a team that brings together the inspiration of creatives for Aradan art, the knowledge of independent art appraisals through ENA appraisals, and then gives back to the San Diego communities in the spirit of service. As an accredited member of the International Society of Appraisers, Elsie appraises fine art, including paintings, prints, sketches, and sculpture. She is a member of the Association of Women Art Dealers and the gallery director for Aradan Art. She is currently a board member for Las Patronas and Mission Hills Heritage. Welcome, Elsie. Hello, my dear.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Susanna and Vanguard, for inviting me to the discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So
I thought I was just going to say maybe a little bit of background, how all of it came together the way it did. I started my career in healthcare, actually in oncology research. I have my MS in regulatory affairs. In 2013, I did a serious career pivot and opened an art gallery in La Jolla, known as Monarch Aradan Contemporary, now known as Aradan Art. Since then, we've represented dozens of artists in both local, regional, and international artists working in the mediums of painting, sculpture, print, sketching. The artists, the gallery is now in Bangor, and we've been here now for a little over a year that we shifted the gallery. In 2018, I went back to school to become an accredited appraiser specializing in fine art. And I did that because it was more of a big picture need that I saw out there of having that process, that orderly process of evaluating art and really trying to set some sort of value to art in addition to the intrinsic value that we all give it. And I really felt, just given my background, that I needed that analytical side to the art world and be able to have that balance out our business. I did want to keep it independent from the art gallery, so the two businesses are independent, to avoid any conflict of interest, and also to keep it very clear cut that ENA Appraisals does art appraisals for all artists, galleries, private and public clients, whereas Aradan Art strictly focuses on our artists. Then in 2020, both Aradan Art and ENA Appraisals became subsidiaries of ENA Art Group, which basically manages all the administrative aspects of both, and also handles all the community service that we take very seriously and is very important to us. So that's a little bit about the whole trilogy.
Thank you. Wonderful. So we're going to have a lot of questions for you, my dear, because art appraisal, art appraising is something, how do you value your art? How do you give value to art? How do you add value to the work that you already have, for example, as an individual artist? So stick around. Thank you. I'm so excited that you're here. And we're going to bring on our next guest for now. Okay, so our next guest is Johnny Tran. He's the owner of Thumbprint Gallery in La Jolla, California. Johnny started Thumbprint Gallery with his business partner, Palak Dow, in 2009 after working in the event business as a DJ promoter and coordinator. He began as the promoter and organizer of the legendary Tuesday night art events at Bar Basic in downtown. Johnny has also organized and curated for the annual Art Around Adams Art and Music Walk and the East Village Art Walk. Located in the heart of the village in La Jolla, Thumbprint Gallery focuses on pop culture, nostalgia, urban art, and pop surrealism. The gallery seeks to provide an eclectic and engaging atmosphere to view art by bringing people together in appreciation and support of local, national, and international artists. Thumbprint Gallery has won numerous awards for Best Gallery from San Diego City Beat, La Jolla Village News, and San Diego City Voter A-List. Welcome, Johnny.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for putting on this event. It's great.
Yeah. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about Thumbprint. Tell us about the evolution. Where are you guys at now? What are your focus right now?
Yeah, so we basically started, me and my business partner, in the event business, doing events at bars and clubs and whatnot that also integrated art. And we started Thumbprint Gallery basically to give voice to the local arts community and also make art more accessible to everyday people. And yeah, that's what we got going on. Thumbprint Gallery right now, we have an art exhibition by J.C. Carino titled Days Under the Sun, which runs until September 4th. And then our next exhibition will be Yvonne Carly, which starts on September 11th. So please check it out.
Great. So we'll definitely add that information in the link so you guys can access it and go take a visit to La Jolla, beautiful La Jolla. So stick around with us for just a minute and we will bring you back. Okay, hang tight. All right, our next guest is Alejandro Rojas Salazar. Alexander Salazar was born in Houston, Texas in 1973. Thanks for telling us. Salazar has been an art dealer for 24 years and he's been an active artist his entire life. He has a master's degree in theology and art from Harvard University and a master's degree in sociology and art from Boston College. As an undergraduate student at Colorado College, Salazar moved to London, England, and then Florence, Italy to immerse himself in art. In 2001, Salazar moved to La Jolla, California, and has been an active supporter of the San Diego art scene. Indeed, he is the founder of multiple art galleries and projects, including Alexander Salazar Fine Art, White Box Contemporary, the Salazar Artist in Residence Program, and most recently, Houston Art Advisory in Texas. Also, he's a dedicated collector and philanthropist, donating many original works of art to various charities and causes in California. Salazar will soon be reopening 2 new art galleries in the next few months in downtown San Diego and in the design district on Miramar Road in a new partnership with an interior design firm. Salazar has a passion and understanding of the art market, and he is on both sides of the fence as a successful artist and a reputable, well-respected art dealer. Welcome, Alexander.
Hello.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Thank you for having me. First of all, I'd like to say that, yes, I'm still here. I know that for a while, I sort of went off the grid. We started Alexander Salazar. I started it in 2009, and it was very exciting because that's when Thumbprint opened up and some great things were happening in San Diego, and it was very exciting. In the last 11 years, I've definitely tried to do as much as I can to open up various art spaces. And then some of those spaces closed, some of them reopened, and I'm just excited that I'm still here to go for it again. I think if there's one message that I'd like to tell everyone is that you're stuck once you're in the art business because it's hard to just walk away from something like this. It really is a beautiful lifelong passion of mine, not just as an artist, but also to support other artists. Because sometimes, you just need to help other people and you can't focus on yourself. And you get that balance in the art world by contributing to other people's success. And I'm just glad that I'm still here and will grow again. It's been a tough 2 years because of COVID. The gallery actually did shut down during COVID for a few months. And I wasn't sure if I was going to go back to Houston, as I do have a gallery in Houston, Texas, that I opened 4 months before COVID. So it's been tough, but I'm not going to leave San Diego. I seriously thought about it, but I'm here and I'm going to release and restart, and that's going to happen in the next few months. So keep an eye out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for bringing your expertise to this panel. We're excited to have you. Okay, and our next guest is Mr. John Stock. John is an entrepreneur and consultant with a focus on emerging technologies, including augmented virtual reality, XR, the Internet of Things, and blockchain. He's the co-founder of Corridor, an XR commerce platform which fuses augmented and virtual reality with digital shopping environments. John is passionate about tech's impact on the future of art, entertainment, and commerce. John holds a master's degree from Harvard University, where he studied innovation and strategic management and counts, quote, breakthrough innovation with blockchain technology among his favorite courses. Welcome, John.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let me pin you here. So tell us a little bit about what you do, about your, I mean, you have a very specific niche that you work in, and everybody's curious about this new world of, you know, the Internet of Things, NFTs. It feels like another world. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about me and then a little bit about what we're doing at Corridor. Thank you for the bio. That did a pretty good job kind of capturing a lot of where I play. So I primarily focus on emerging technologies as they're converging together. So blockchain is one of those critical pieces of the new landscape of the metaverse, if you want to call it that, that's coming together. So, you know, our digital lives are just evolving right now. And we're spending more and more time in digital spaces. We're finding new ways to connect with each other. We're finding new ways to collect and support artists. The combination of blockchain plus augmented virtual reality is kind of core of what we're doing at Corridor right now. Our goal is to create the best virtual digital art buying or shopping experience that exists. So we're currently working with the Chuck Jones family, virtualizing their art galleries, creating art buying experiences. And then we've got a project going with them in the city of Irvine for the Summer of Creativity, where we're virtualizing their art installation that's at the Great Park in Irvine, and then adding augmented reality elements around the space and in the exhibit itself. So it's going to allow anybody from around the world to be able to come and visit. And then we're working on larger art expo projects and working with some other smaller independent artists, helping them virtualize an art gallery and create art buying experiences.
That is so, so cool. Hang on for a second. I'm going to bring on Patricia. Thank you for being a part of this event. We're very, very excited to have you. And our last guest is the one and only Patricia Fisher. She's the founder of San Diego Visual Arts Network and author of The Artist and the Art of Marketing. Patricia has taken on the roles of gallerist, curator, writer, teacher, website coordinator, and artist. She is founder of the directory and events calendar San Diego Visual Arts Network, which funds the San Diego Art Prize. She has curated exhibitions including Movers and Shakers, Who's Who in San Diego Visual Arts, Little and Large, Art Meets Fashion, and the DNA of Creativity. Currently, she's on the board of North County Arts Network and also an advisor for Encinitas Friends of the Arts, Arts Bus Express, and Synergy Arts Foundation. She holds an MFA in sculpture from California College of Arts and Crafts. Her own paintings and sculptures have been shown internationally. Patricia was the director of a London gallery, held assistant professorship at Humboldt State University, and was head of the art department at South Bank International School. She is the author, as mentioned, of The Artist and the Art of Marketing, and has lectured extensively on marketing for artists. The Smart Collector is an entire section of the San Diego Visual Arts Network dedicated to art collectors, so definitely do visit that. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you so much for that very complete introduction. And I want to say, first of all, I want to invite John Stock to please contact me and write an article about everything he's doing with augmented reality, virtual reality, so that we can publish it on San Diego Visual Arts Network in the Smart Collector series. And I'd like to guide everybody to that section of our website. What we did was, about 10 years ago, we saw that there was no book for collectors. And so we wrote a table of contents, and then we patiently commissioned articles to fill in that table of contents. And so it's all free and all available on. There's one more plea that I'd like to make right now, and that is for everybody to go to the link that I put at the top of the chat and make a comment on how it's necessary to bring back the San Diego County Arts Council. The council closed almost 25 years ago, but long before I even was in San Diego. And we're the only county in California that does not have an agency at the supervisor's level, at the county's level. And I've been working on this project for about 10 years. It goes very, very slowly, but this is a really important first step to bring this to everybody's attention. If it passes tomorrow, so your comments need to be made today, then it will go on to have 90 days for a report about a commission that could be formed to have representation throughout the entire county for all those unincorporated areas that don't really have anybody to represent them, to get funding, or just for promotion of the arts. So of course, this is something I'm very passionate about. A lot of you know that I wear a lot of different hats, but that's what I'm doing right now. Thank you so much, Susanna.
Wonderful, thank you so much. So we're gonna go ahead and open up the panel to the whole group. So I'm gonna pin all of our panelists now. And if you have a question, please go ahead and raise your hand. I'm going to start off with the questions, and then we'll see if your questions get answered, and if not, go ahead and raise your hand. So let's get started first on the art collector side. Now, we have a lot of visual artists on this call, but I think there's a lot that you can learn by the questions that we ask related to art collecting. And also, you should be art collecting. Right? I mean, if you're an artist, support one another by purchasing original artwork by your fellow artists. So let's talk about what is trending right now. What is trending? What have you been hearing about? I know for sure that during the social unrest and cultural reckoning in the past year and a half that's been going on, a lot of folks have been reaching out to me about who are the BIPOC artists that are in town. You know, is that something that you've seen as well from your angle? Who can I ask? I'm gonna call on you if you like. Johnny, do you want to tell us about the work that you do? I mean, do you have artists that you think are starting to people pay more attention to right now?
Well, as far as the social unrest and whatnot, I did see a trend leading up to that point, an increase in political and social commentary in arts. But honestly, since maybe the election, I've seen a pretty strong move away from that. From social and political commentary. So that's the trend that I think I see. That's just my perspective. Maybe it's just my certain niche that we are a part of, but that's what I've been seeing.
I hope it's not a
Did that
trend.
answer the question?
I hope it sticks around. When it comes to that. Has anyone else seen any sort of trends that are happening right now? I mean, if I'm an art collector and I'm thinking about purchasing new art, John, tell us about what are you seeing trending right now?
Yeah, well, I was just gonna give you guys two resources that might be helpful as you're trying to navigate the NFT space specifically and the sorts of things that are kind of happening and keeping a pulse on what's going on. So one of the nice things about these blockchain-based technologies is it's pretty easy to track activity that's happening. So two platforms that do pretty good analysis and have a lot of information about where users are, how many wallets are live, the kinds of activity that are happening in the space. One is called Dune.xyz. Dune Analytics is the name of the platform. They have a bunch of different resources related to like who's buying what. And then the other is nonfungible.com. It does a lot of good like market analytics of the NFT space. So specifically within the niche of NFT based artworks and those sorts of things, those are a couple of great resources to see what's happening. One of just the broad trends that I'm seeing happen in that space is related to this sort of community based collectors and people that are kind of involved in this thing beyond themselves. A great example of that is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Definitely a niche, world within the NFT space, but they have 5,000 or more. They call themselves Bored Apes that are in that community, and there's been a lot of trading volume that's happened along that space. And one of the interesting things that between like CryptoPunks would be another example, where you're seeing like Twitter profile pictures being changed to the Bored Ape or the CryptoPunk that you bought. So I find it interesting around community and identity.
A question about trends, right? I mean, so is it when you want to start getting into art collecting, do you follow trends? Do you create your own trend? I mean, do you kind of veer and create your own, why purchase this versus the other? Patricia.
So let me address that a little bit. Very interesting, but I don't really believe in following trends. You really have to be true to yourself when you're making art and when you're collecting art. It really has to be meaningful to you, otherwise it's not authentic. On the other hand, I really appreciate that all artists have to be, and collectors have to be curious. And if you're curious about what's going on in the art world, you're always looking for something that might interest you. And so we certainly are seeing a lot of information about BIPOC artists right now. And because they're getting a lot of attention, then we're starting to discover things that we didn't know about. And that's always interesting. I think because we're in San Diego, border issue artists are always going to be trending. And of course, the San Diego Art Prize this year is focusing on 4 border artists. And you can't really, you can't really escape that. We are on the border with Mexico, and that's always going to be a big issue in San Diego. Finally, just after this question was asked that you sent it to me, I was reading the New Yorker, and there it was a trend, which is a very good example of trends. It's called the P&D. It was pattern and decoration trend. And it happened in the 70s and 80s, right as a reaction against minimalism. And it came and it went. It was very popular. I saw big shows of pattern and decoration painting. And now in this article in New Yorker magazine, they talked about how there are 2 galleries bringing back pattern and decoration painting. And of course, we have 2 major artists that specialize in that in this area. Kim McConnell really jumped to fame in that movement. And I think a lot of you know also Kelsey Brooks does pattern painting, but bringing it up into a very contemporary world with a lot of intense meaning, a lot of biology and science brought into those works. So my suggestion is always to follow what interests you and to keep an open mind and be stimulated and keep reading and exploring and going to all the galleries and going to all the websites and seeing what's out there.
Any other thoughts about trends? And we can move on to another question. Okay.
I agree with you about. Can you hear me? Basically, I wanted to agree with you, Patricia, that trends can also be false, trends, I would say, just basically because it is a result of great social media, great marketing, great Instagram accounts, great influencers. So really, what is there to believe that it's an actual trend? I think in San Diego, the only thing that's trending for us is that we have a group of people here on the screen that all care about San Diego, and they're still trying hard to make our own scene and create our own scene. I love seeing what's happening in all parts of the world, but ultimately it's not affecting my business because it's the artists that are on my walls that I care about. I want to make sure that they find homes. I want to make sure that they're exhibiting, that they have places to exhibit. Even when they move on to other galleries and other spaces, it's important for me as an art dealer to follow their trend. I've been blessed to be in San Diego now in the art market for so long that I've seen the artists that first started on their first show or on my walls in the artist in residency, and now are doing their own thing, and some have even opened up their own galleries. To me, that's an awesome trend. So that's something that I'm proud of. And I think that when you focus on an artist's individual story, that's their own trend. And that you can actually see from one date to the other. Worldwide art trends, I don't really care.
Thank you. Good insight. One of the things that I did notice, and this is based off of a report by Artsy, it said that 60% of collectors that they surveyed in this mass survey were preferring works by emerging artists. And also 75% or more of their art budget was purchasing artwork online. So I think maybe there is definitely a trend, because we've been shut down, you know, of purchasing artwork online. So that probably is an indicator for those of you artists, the visual artists on this call, to start paying more attention to your online presence, right? Do you have a way to actually sell art directly on your site? Are you focusing mostly on Instagram? Do you have the ability, based on your following count, to even sell your work on Instagram? So those are things you want to definitely be paying attention to. Let's talk about what go ahead.
I was just going to add on that last comment about selling art online, especially for artists. You just want to be very careful when you post pricing on a public platform. Unless you're absolutely sure of the value that you're putting on your artwork, and that you've made a decision not to work with, say, a gallery or a publicist. You just want to make sure, because once you have numbers out there, it's very hard to change those numbers if you decide to work in partnership with a gallery or a third party. Appraisers will evaluate the work based on numbers that are out there, both retail and sold. So you just want to be careful when you do that. And also on the trending topic, I agree that, especially from a gallery perspective, you don't want to chase trends. You really want to specialize, and then the people will find you based on what you're carrying. I often say that the visual arts is like a language, right? The more you get out there, the more you look at different arts, the more you understand it, and you will figure out what you personally prefer and what speaks to you. And then you find what artist or what gallery is offering that particular style. I think it's a mistake for an artist or a gallery to chase trends. Then you're kind of all over the place and nobody knows what it is that you're focusing on.
Thank you. Two really good pieces of insight. Definitely, you mentioned that at one point in a past conversation, you and I, about not posting prices because it doesn't give you any wiggle room. It doesn't give you any negotiation power. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and I to completely understand why you would do it as an artist to sell online. I just want to make sure that the prices you're putting on there, that you're comfortable with those prices before you make them public.
Right. On that note, I decided that I would take Houston Art Advisory and make it completely a non-existent website, but just totally put the entire inventory on Artsy. And that's actually been very successful to me. I didn't find the need of creating a completely separate website and then also posting those same images on another website. To me, that was a waste of time, especially how the pandemic has changed art buying, buying in general. I'll be honest, when I sold a painting on Artsy, I was completely shocked. I'm like, wow, it actually does work. But I was also scared of shipping something that hadn't been seen, and you know, texture wasn't visible, the lighting might be off, the color might be off. So there's a lot of little, you know, tidbits that you need to be careful on to make sure that if you are going to be selling online, that it is true to the piece and that you haven't filtered it, you haven't changed the color in any way, because my purple might look like a lavender to you, and then you can get into a lot of shipping problems. You know, when you ship a painting, they're like, well, it looked different on the screen. Well, of course it is. Although I am not a fan of e-commerce sites, unfortunately, that's where I've gone. I'm using it more as a way, as a cataloging way as well, to see what I have and to keep track of what I have by putting it online. Also, when I'm doing something that's quite interesting, and that is carrying artwork or representing artwork that I don't have physically in my gallery. In the past, I only put artwork online that I physically had. And what I've been doing now is virtual art exhibits on Artsy, which have worked out really well. I have some artists that I've already worked with that will consign 10 paintings to me that are not at any other gallery or on any other website, and I would have those on my artsy page. And basically I would do like an online exhibit, send people to that page to view the works, and they never have to ship the painting. So whenever it's shipped directly from the artist studio. And I think that just allows the gallery to not become storage spaces, because there are times when, you know, right now I have 20 paintings by an artist from Japan from an exhibit 7 years ago. It's going to cost $5,000 to ship them back. You know, you don't think about those things sometimes, and you just get excited. But right now I'm storing them. But I am going to re-exhibit it in Houston because they haven't been exhibited in Houston. So, you know, you just have to find a way to re-exhibit in new spaces, because really you're exhibiting to a new audience, and the e-commerce is a new audience. If someone's looking for a black painting, they do black, and they're going to show you all the black paintings on Artsy. They have such an excellent filtering system that I think everyone should consider, but it's not free.
It's a robust program for sure. I want to ask about what kinds of questions collectors should be asking, both in the NFT space and in the in-person space, when purchasing art from a gallery, from a collector, or from an artist. What kinds of questions should be asked in order to protect yourself, the collector? What are red
Susanna,
flags?
I'd like to start on that one.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think since we're talking about buying online, one of the most important things is to make sure that you're dealing with someone that has a return policy, with a reputable either gallery, if you're buying directly from an artist, that it's someone that has a strong reputation and that they have a money back return policy. So don't buy anything online as a collector without looking at it and not have some sort of arrangement that if it's not what you expected, that you can return it within a certain amount of time. So most of our sales in 2020, I would say 90% of them were online, and we always have a money back guarantee of at least 5 days. And I think that gives the collector peace of mind. The artists have to also understand that if that art goes out and the collector does not, you know, for whatever reason decides to return it, that they have to be okay with that too. So it has to be a partnership for sure. But that would be my advice to collectors that are buying online, which seems to be more popular nowadays.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's important that that it goes back to Elsie's question about pricing. You know, I think that if you see an artwork for sale by a very famous person and it's very low in price, that's a red flag. If you see a high price on an artist and that artist has no discernible resume or there's no provenance on the work, that's also a red flag. And with pricing, I just want to add one of the most important things in pricing is, and especially when you go public with pricing, is that your prices don't jump, that they don't go from a low price and then jump to a high price that you can't sustain. Because if a collector has bought a work for $5,000 and then he sees the similar work is selling for $15,000, he's going to assume that work is now $15,000, and if it can't make $15,000 market because there's not the demand for it, then they feel their confidence is undermined. So a very, very slow, steady climb in prices is the way to go.
Thank you. John, you had something? You had a comment? You're muted.
Yes, the old mute button getting me again. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of context about how big the online art market was last year. So it was $12.4 billion in 2020, which is essentially like 25% of the total market value. It's the highest it's ever been. It was up. I think they said it was, this is by far the highest that the online sales has ever been. I actually linked in the chat a report from Art Basel and UBS, where they did a really great deep dive into all of the data from 2020.
What about NFTs? is this something that we should be paying attention to as collectors? Is this something we should be investing in? Is this just like a bubble ready to pop? What, you know, I think I saw somewhere that only, was it 2% of art buyers are buying NFTs, something like that? It's like super low amount. Talk to us about that.
Sure. So yeah, I'll come at it from maybe a couple of different perspectives. So I think about NFTs as being sort of a burgeoning and new way of collecting digital art. I think there's also a lot of opportunity around using the blockchain technology to provide provenance and authenticity to physical paintings. But when you think about the NFTs and kind of what the market that's happening there, that's a new sort of medium and a new way to monetize what is otherwise, you know, a tricky transaction to do. That market, while sort of traditional art buyers haven't necessarily taken it up yet, it's been huge and growing over the last year and a half, 2 years. Just in this year alone, it's a $2.5 billion value marketplace, just from the beginning of 2021 until now. And there's an entirely new type of collector that's operating in that space. So it's a much younger, much more tech savvy audience. So there's a lot of interesting things happening in the space. To kind of speak to the idea of is it a bubble? Probably to some degree, there's bubble things happening in it. As far as an underlying fundamentals of it, I do think that as time goes on and we spend more and more of our time in virtual galleries and salons and in these digital spaces, the ability to actually own unique, provably authentic digital assets starts to really matter. And I think you'll start to see more traditional artists and art collectors joining the space.
Does everyone on here know what an NFT is of our I mean, if you need an explanation, just type it in the chat and we'll kind of extrapolate a little more information about it. But I think by now, most people understand non-fungible tokens. Oh, there you go. We've got a descriptive right there in the chat for you.
Thanks, Miguel.
John, can you address the concerns I've heard about the environment and the enormous amount of energy needed to authenticate these transactions?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about that a little bit. So by its nature, most of the big blockchain protocols that exist right now, which are Ethereum and Bitcoin, are the most famous and the largest. They currently use a proof of work system that basically requires you to do a bunch of computing power to authenticate it, to add a new transaction to the blockchain. That computing power is costly and requires a bunch of energy consumption to do it. And it is the case that because of the amount of energy that's required, that it does have, depending on the energy source that's used, it does have environmental impact. Some of the cool things that I'm seeing happen in the space is that people do care about the impact that it's having. And so you're seeing that there are more miners, those are the people that actually have to do all of the computing power to validate these transactions, are moving to areas where they're running on renewable resources. And so that's one way that they're negating some of the environmental impacts. And then there's some alternative methods of basically doing these same kinds of verification processes that don't require all of the same computing power. So moving from a proof of work to a proof of stake, or there's other ways that do this. So Tezos is actually one of the newer and bigger or burgeoning blockchains for NFTs that is using proof of stake and doesn't have nearly or doesn't have the same environmental impacts at all.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, this is all, probably, new to many of us. We follow along, we see the trends. We saw that Christie's, had a major sale and all of a sudden everybody took it seriously, and now it's something to pay attention to. Let's talk about insurance. Does anyone have any thoughts about, as a collector, should you be purchasing art insurance, fine art insurance? Should you have an art attorney? Are there things that we should be paying attention to in terms of protecting your collection?
Well,
Who can speak
we
on that?
did write an article about insurance on the smart collector, and so I would refer you to that article. Insurance is very expensive if you're a major collector, and I don't think anybody on this chat is. You don't necessarily have to insure for the full price of a work of art. You want to insure if it gets damaged for the repair of the work, and that's much less than replacement. Or if you're worried about the work being authentic, there is a way to just ensure the title of the work, that the clearance of the title, that it's authentic and that it belongs to you. So those are a couple of things to think about when thinking about insurance.
What about for artists? Should artists be insuring the work that is living in their studio?
I don't know any artist that can afford that, to tell you the truth. So you have a household policy, and so you should try to make sure that the artwork is included in your household policy. But very few
or
artists,
renter's insurance, possibly.
yeah. So we've had a lot of talk about, we did a whole seminar about, when we had the fires, we put on a seminar about protecting your artwork, and we had somebody come in and talk about art insurance for the artist. And I don't think anybody, we had a specialist come in, and I don't think anybody took him up, because it's expensive and they just don't, they don't prioritize that way, most artists.
Yeah.
You can make more. I think the attitude is you can make more. One of the things I would suggest is that, you keep really, really good records, that you have a backup of all your digital images stored outside of your home. And that you remember that sometimes you're famous at the end of your lifetime. So make sure that some of the best works that you have created during your lifetime, you might retain those and make sure that they are specially protected, because they could pay for your retirement eventually.
I will add to that, that when you ship, or when you're having works shipped to you as a collector, to pay for the extra shipping. And I've learned from 2 mistakes where I had my own policy under it for the shipping, so I didn't worry about it. The reality is that when it does get damaged, you're dealing with an insurance company still, but they're going to need to find an appraiser to give you the appraisal, and then you're going to go that route. If you have your own insurance, you're still going to do that, but you need to have insurance when you ship it. You just don't be cheap about it. It's only going to be another extra $100 or $200, but if you're spending a very expensive item, then get shipping and get insurance and create it. Don't put it in a cheap box.
Just a heads up, when I ran a gallery in London, I had a close relationship with an insurance company that would often come to me with artwork that had been damaged, and insurance for me to appraise it. And damaged artwork, is worth a lot less than artwork that's in good condition. But just a heads up for gallerists, I was able to buy some of that artwork really, really cheaply. Like I bought an Andy Warhol Maya Te-Sung for $30, and because it was a print and there was a little crease on the corner. And then I think I sold it for $300, and probably now it's worth, still worth 30,000. But back then it was a nice little profit to go from $30 to $300.
Let's talk about reproductions. I think, we could, a lot of artists are on the fence about whether or not they should be creating giclées, about whether or not they should be producing limited edition prints. What does that even mean? Johnny, do you work a lot with prints and reproductions, am I right?
Right, yes, this is correct.
What is your experience with that? What should artists know?
Well, I think artists should, when they're making limited edition prints, one thing they should think about is what is their actual demand in the market, and the number of prints should reflect that. So one of our first artists we worked with, he was a beginner, but he was very talented, and he didn't understand the idea of supply and demand, and the more you print, the lower your value will be. So this is his first print, and he started with 1,000. Wow. And yeah, obviously he has most of them still. So if you're a beginning artist and you don't have a lot of collectors, I would start with a very low number of limited edition, like 10, 15. And also, if you're an artist and you're not selling and you just can't sell your originals, I wouldn't automatically go to, oh, I just need to make reproductions, therefore I can have a lower price point. There's many ways to get collectors. One thing is you can lower the price of your originals. If you keep showing and showing, you basically have a lot of data that says, hey, the market doesn't like my art at this price. So the most obvious thing to do would be to lower the price or up the quality, which ups the demand. So instead of going straight to reproductions for a lot of the beginning artists, I suggest just create more art and improve your skill. And once you have art that's just laying around in the house for so long and taking up all the space, you're going to want to sell it for less, and the market will tell you where you're at. So that's what I think about reproductions.
Nice, thank you. Any other thoughts about reproductions or giclées, limited edition prints? Sonia, do you work with reproductions in your gallery, or is it mostly originals?
No, we work with originals now. I believe that the reproduction prints, aside from photography prints on metal, things like that, I believe that those devalue the original piece. Having personally collected works where an artist has done reproductions of the piece, even if they're embellished, I still think that there's nothing that'll compare to the original. So if you envision like the Mona Lisa, people are having, little prints from a museum store, it's not the same. And I think that that's my personal feeling about everything, but everyone has their own their market that they sell to, so it really just depends on the market. And I've been listening to everybody talk here, and I think there's all these things I would have said. Everyone's got it exactly the way that I would have said it. And I think everyone is like, in this group is really focused and professional, and I really appreciate that for our market. And coming from a top level viewpoint of the whole thing, I think it's really important to just understand what you want in life, like your focus. If you're an artist or a collector, like what's the point? Because are you collecting for yourself? Do you want to make money later? Do you want to produce art because your heart speaks for it? Or do you want to connect with other people? And then who you want to work with. So if you have a gallery that you think really is capable of showing art that's similar to yours, then I think you should approach that gallery and ask them, is this a good fit for me?
Mm-hmm. I do want to bring it back and stay with you for a second, Sonia. Let's switch to the conversation for artists and focus on what kind of relationship do galleries want to have with artists. What kind of relationship do how does one approach a gallery? Should someone approach it like a cold call type of approach to a gallery if you want your work to be seen? What do artists, or what do gallerists not want, or what do they want?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people come in and they say, I've chosen your gallery to show my work. And I find that really course, because they don't even know what we're showing here. They're like, so what do you show here? And I want to be here because it's great. And I'm like, okay, well, do you know what this is? Like, they haven't done their research. They haven't learned about that we only show certain artists, certain types, regionally. And it's just kind of a waste of time, I think. There's artists who will just throw things at the wall and hope it'll stick. And for some people it may. But I think that there's a good way to approach galleries, and that would be to just be present most of the time when there's social occasions, to do a talk like this, to put, kindly ask for input instead of saying like, I've chosen you as the space for me. So I think it's a business relationship. It's assumptions you shouldn't make when you're having any kind of relationship with other people. You should ask and be polite. And I think that's really, having children, I think, do a lot of that lately, where I try to teach the foundations of personal interaction. And sometimes, I struggle with this. It's tough for everyone, but you have to relate to other people, and you have to empathize and sympathize and understand first before you can connect with somebody. And,
so being intentional, doing your research, knowing about the gallery that you're about to approach, knowing what their interests are, what their mission is before you even walk in the door. Yeah,
the basic foundation of who they are and what they serve and what their mission is. Yeah. And then just, basic social courtesy, like not approaching a person who's working at a gallery for someone's reception to show your art on your cell phone to someone who's working for another artist in a specific event. So I think a lot of people understand that, but asking nicely.
Sometimes you want to put that on the door of an exhibit. Do not show the owners your art during this exhibit. But
have you had that? Has for the other folks who have galleries or worked in that gallery kind of space, what is the most off-putting thing? I mean, other than sort of expecting that they want to see your work, is there anything that's like an absolute no-no when approaching a gallery?
I would agree 100% with Sonia. It's very off-putting when someone has no idea what your gallery even represents or the style that you do. Nothing. Hasn't probably even looked at your website. But they either come in or they send you information saying, I want to show my work at your gallery. That's like saying that someone wants to come for dinner, uninvited. It's just very rude, and it's a turnoff. We at Ardando Art, we have a committee that reviews submissions every month if we have any to review. So it's a very methodical process, and the first screening is that do you have expressionistic work? Do you deal in the mediums that we represent? Do you have a portfolio? Do you have a CV? And so it's a screening process from the beginning. It's not something that is done haphazardly. And I think artists need to understand that.
I do compare it to the admissions process, applying for a university or school or whatever. When you're applying to art school, for example, for a master's degree, you have to do your research of who has the strongest program that's going to meet your needs, and vice versa. Just the same, an art dealer is looking for artists that's going to be a good fit for their collectors. So we're sort of the middle person on both sides. But if an artist hasn't figured out what's going on in that particular gallery, then it's a waste of everyone's time. And I think immediately I sort of go like this. Because there are a lot of galleries, and not every gallery is for you just because you like the way it looks.
When I was running my gallery in London, I found that I listened to the other artists in my stable about artists that were interesting, and I found artists that way. So meeting the artists that are already in a gallery could be a good way to go about finding out about the gallery and what its reputation is, and also if that artist likes your work, eventually recommending you. We also listen to our collectors if they discovered artists that they liked, and we looked at university galleries and museums at their exhibitions. So there's a lot of ways that a gallery can find the artists that they want to represent.
Would it be appropriate then to say that a good approach would be to approach the gallery and ask them what their process is for being considered?
When you're ready, when you've already chosen that gallery, when you've done your research already and know that that's where you want to be, then yes, ask what the policy is, and then also listen to what they say. You know, listen to what they say about your artwork. Sometimes you have to be on their radar for a couple of years before you do work that's appropriate for them. And so consider it, you know, the first steps is just finding out what the policy is and submitting
I think
work.
an added bonus that an artist could do would be, why do you want to work with this gallery? Why do you think you're a good fit? That would really be impressive to me if you said, for example, I think I would be a great fit because you have these painters and I do sculpture, and I think it would really enhance the other work that you have, or something like that. Because that shows me that they not only did research on what we present, but that they've actually thought through how they can make it a better presentation or enhance our current artists, not to say that they're, you know, just not even look at it like we talked about.
Right. And even if you, I mean, you don't go into a gallery and make an introduction and hope to be immediately taken in and given a show. I mean, you're there to be considered. Maybe there's a group show, then that's the first steps, that you're included in a group show. And the the art gallery has the ability to try it out and see what their collector's reputation is. So, you know, break it down into smaller baby steps.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions about, I know we switched over to sort of the artist side, but I did have a question about people who want to collect art that is not necessarily of already existing high value, but that just want to create a collection based off of the things that inspire them. Putting art that is very valuable next to, you know, not so valuable, does that give it more value as becoming a part of a larger collection? Are there ways to give more value to work that you didn't necessarily pay a lot of money for?
I think new art collecting is completely subjective. You don't have to have any rules whatsoever. It's your own personal curation with the work in your space. And so if you've connected with the work emotionally, or I think speaks to you, it's because it's got a technical skill that you are impressed by, or it's conveying some emotions that you really feel are reflective somehow of the process that you you know, engage with it, or you really just like the artist and you love what they stand for and you want to support them and have something of theirs. So you know, in terms of, you know, Patricia had a really well-known piece, that's really like, you don't know who this person is, but they're very well known. So maybe you don't really like them as a person, but their name stands for themselves. So it's all just very subjective. I feel like you come in and you see something and it speaks to you for one reason or another. Yeah. And that's really what's going to build your collection. It doesn't have to make any sense thematically, but it could, you know, you could go that direction as well.
Yeah. Johnny, did you have anything to add to that? I know you
had a phone call by a young lady.
Not really. You know, I think a lot of I think most collectors they collect just what they like. You know, I don't think they think of it as, well, this is going to be a valuable thing in the future or whatnot. At least for me, that's a very small part of my my analysis of when I want to buy art. So.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Sonia was saying about, why are you doing this? What's your goal here, right? Are you buying to resell it, or are you buying to give higher value to your entire collection? Are you buying it just to support a fellow artist? And sorry, I cut you off, Alexander.
I was going to say two things. One is, there's a wonderful gallery that just opened up in San Francisco called the Gallery of Lost Artists, Lost Art. And they have a collection of so many artists from the last 50 years that I've never heard of. And there's some great pieces there. And it's a great example of finding what you love. It's like I've gone to their website over and over to try to see what they have. The second part, going back to collectors and galleries and them seeing the artists, I've worked with clients that have never stepped foot in my gallery. And that's because I've been doing this for 20 plus years, that they've been with me since I lived in Boston. And now I'm here and I'll just call them because I know what they like. And I think that's just from years and years of being a collector, of knowing what they like and knowing what their house looks like, knowing what else they have, knowing what moves them, because it is an emotional purchase. I've picked up the phone on all my travels and I've called collectors, said, I'm at this location, what do you think of this? I think you would like it. And so they don't necessarily need to go into your gallery. They don't necessarily need to go into your website. They just need to have a good relationship with the dealer. And I think that a good gallery owner, gallerist knows their collectors so good, but it takes a lot of time. And I think that as years go by, you get better and better and better.
You bring up a really good point. I was going to ask about what kind of relationship art collectors want to have with artists. Do they want to have a relationship with the artists at all? Or do you think most collectors would prefer to just work through a gallery? Is that even a thing? Does it matter?
It depends on what city you're in, doesn't it? I think if you're, my gallery was in London and nobody expected to meet the artist, right? But in San Diego, I found that the collectors really want to meet the artist in general. And we did a whole series of Eat Your Art Out, where we had artists make dinner for a bunch of collectors, and they all came to dinner. It was tremendous fun. I think, Susanna, you've done some of that too. And I think what I found is kind of surprisingly, collectors just are so envious of artists. They're envious of their lifestyle. They're envious of their innovation and creation. They really believe that the artists have something that maybe they with all their money don't actually have. And I like to put artists and collectors together. I think it's a great thing to do in San Diego, particularly.
It also shows a level of trust between the collector and the artist, that there won't be any back-end deals, that they will work together. I think that level of trust is the ultimate level of relationship between a gallery owner and an artist, is when I do pick up the phone or give them their website or say, hey, they're going to contact you. Let's go to lunch together. When you get to that level, magic happens. And I think it's because all three parties know that there's something happening. Does not involve distrust, because some clients don't want to deal with an artist. There's some artists that I would never introduce to collectors for whatever reason. But there's some artists that sell themselves, that are just good people, have good vibe about them, that know how to communicate and talk about their art, that love talking about their art. There's some artists that they don't want to tell you about their process or medium. I don't discourage or encourage either. I just know that if the meeting's going to go well, then I encourage it. If it's going to go bad, I discourage it. So
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think artists, either not every artist is comfortable. I'm about to put you in an uncomfortable space of asking you to give me your 1-minute art pitch. I hope that you take advantage of it and showcase your work here, but not everyone is comfortable doing that. I mean, some artists would definitely prefer to work with a gallerist, or do their, just sell their work online and call it a day, instead of having to have this sort of transactional relationship with someone and then hoping it evolves or whatever. And so what are the resources available that you know of to, John, you have a great resource, right? Your gallery, your virtual gallery is a wonderful way to showcase art, but what are resources that you know of that are available for people who want to sell their work online? If you can share, you can share it in the chat as well.
Yeah, we have a bibliography on the Smart Collectors section And we have a bibliography for collectors, books about collecting, and also a bibliography about artists, about marketing art. And there are books online, books about selling online on that, in that bibliography. I always recommend that you read a book on something like this first, and, or go to a website and read up a lot about it, and maybe even join a workshop on selling online is a good thing to do as well. You really need to have, you know, the book I wrote in 1980 doesn't have anything about online because there was no online. So you need to get the latest published book that you can. The latest information is the most relevant. So make sure and look at the publication date on any books that you're researching on this. And obviously live workshops, and there are a few art associations in San Diego that are giving art workshops on selling your work, and they include online as well, I believe.
I'll mention that Vanguard Culture recently held a workshop called Money Making for Creatives, which is now available on our website for free. If you'd like to check it out, go to vanguardculture.org and go to our forum, which is the professional development series that we have. And there are a lot of resources there, not just for visual artists, but how to create opportunities as an artist. We just try to help you have sort of a business mind about your practice, and there's lots of resources there as well. It's called Money Making for Creatives with Sean Cassidy. Any other thoughts about resources or the best way to sell your work online?
Well, one thing I want to say is watch the art speak, right? If you've been to university, if you have a university art degree, you've probably been trained about how to talk about your work so that it sounds serious and important. And I'm a big proponent of not having that art speak, but actually speaking with some sort of authenticity. I will go to an artist's website and see art speak. And then when I talk to them, it's like they can explain what they're doing perfectly well in language that everybody can understand. And I much prefer that. So I just want to put in a pitch to eliminate art speak.
I completely agree. For me, it just sounds a little bit, I mean, I understand it. I'm an academic as well, and I studied art history, and I can understand what I'm reading, but it sounds a little bit pretentious. Be more authentic. People will gravitate more towards your work if they can relate to it. They didn't go to art school. Remember that necessarily.
I will
right?
say just one thing from the artist perspective is that I recently had an exhibit where I had written up 2 statements. One of them was the funny one and the good one, and the one that I thought would sell. And then the other one was the real one that talked about depression, anxiety, you know, losing, being poor, like all the stuff. And I started asking myself, people are not going to want this on their walls because they're going to be like, that's about depression, you know. And the reality is that they connected with so many more people, not, you know, for in some way or another, the statement did, that people actually, it was successful. So I had to get over my fear of being completely authentic in my art and what it was about. And that was tough for me because, like I said, I have the 2 brains of the gallery and what's going to sell, what's not going to sell, or just being mute about it. And I think that the more you can actually share of yourself and of the process, not the process of how you made it, but of what it means to you, then they're going to find that story in their experience. And that connection is what's going to make somebody buy your art, is that you're looking for that connect, and you just never know who it's going to connect with. And I recently experienced that, and I moving forward, it's just, that's all I'm going to recommend.
Go ahead, Sonia.
Oh, just kind of to go back to the point of the online and art sale thread and presentation of the work, I do agree 100% about authenticity, and that's something in our marketing. There's certain ways to describe things, but we also try really hard to make it so that the everyday visitor can understand and appreciate. And then I come across a few issues sometimes where artists are promoting their artwork, that there's a particular piece that we have in the gallery for show, and they have it on a lot of other websites like Saatchi maybe artsy or something like that. And they're all different, and they have different pricing sometimes. So it's really important that if you're posting online, you have a relationship with a gallery, that you really analyze what you've done previously to that relationship, and you read the consignment agreement with the gallery and see what the terms are for that arrangement. Because for us, we have an exclusive arrangement for a particular piece that we consign for an exhibit. So if, and we request that it be taken down online or just on their website, say, please see Sparks Gallery. So if you go to the artist's website and it says buy here on the artist's website, and we're doing a lot of marketing and promotion for those pieces and that piece specifically, then it can be kind of a challenge to reconcile a sale. And that's when we have, you know, issues come up with the customer saying, I saw it for so much cheaper on the artist's website. So, and I know Elsie has a whole bunch of input on valuation and, you know, tracking that in order to do her appraisals. And it's really frustrating sometimes because, you know, we get a person who has a secondary market piece from an artist who's living contemporary artist that we still show in the gallery, and they say, I want to sell this. And then we go, okay, what's the, how do we figure out the price? So there's a lot of challenge with the whole cycle of the sale, whether it's the first time it's sold, the second time it's sold, and the pricing that you consistently put with that piece. So keeping records, I know I've seen a couple of artists on the chat who've done really great record keeping, but so I may be preaching to the choir, but for anyone else who has not analyzed their pricing, keep a record of it. And if it changes over time, just a basic Excel sheet is all you really need. And there's a lot of things that you can do to determine your pricing. And that's why as a gallery, we take that percentage of sale, because it's, I believe, our duty as we're helping the artists sell to understand how they fit into the market and the clientele that we are supporting, and what we should value their work at. So if we have a really high cost per square inch for a particular piece, we talk to the artist and say, like, why is this so high? Can you explain your pricing? You know, there's like if it's gold leafed or something, you know, that's another issue because it's the cost of the material. But if it's just, you know, all over the place pricing, then it gets really confusing for everybody. So I recommend, you know, if you're going to be working with a gallery or some kind of sales representative for your work, that you think about these things ahead of time and ask those questions, like, am I pricing my artwork the right way? And the galleries themselves will really be the professionals in that regard.
Material cost, I'm question there. When it comes to materials, I think that's where a lot of artists sort of feel like, oh my God, I always say never factor in the time. If it cost you, you know, $500 to make something, but it took you 3 months. I think I saw it on a show where they said, you know, they won $20,000 for it. I said, well, it took them 3 months. I'm like, well, that's the artist's want, you know, do it faster. But to me, it's funny because you really cannot put in an hour. You don't check in as an artist. You don't have a time clock. And I think that when artists start saying, it took me this long, that's why I want this much more, it just doesn't work.
How does one value art? I mean, how do you know if, let's say that you're just starting off and you don't already have, you know, a price point, an established price point of work that you've sold. You know, you have talent, you have a following, right? People are starting to respond to your work. How do you know what to price it? What's a good starting point of analyzing that? Anybody have thoughts?
Well, I think we have a wonderful article on that, and there are 4 main areas to look at when you're thinking about pricing, and they interlock with each other. The first one is demand. Do you have a waiting list for your work? Do your work sell? Do your shows sell out? There's 2 general things: scarcity and desirability, that make up the demand. Then there's expenses that you've talked about. Is the process, is the material rare? Are you working with gold? Are you, you know, even glass works or very, very large artworks that take up a lot of materials? That can be factored in. The quality, how does your work compare in prices to others in a similar category with similar resumes. And I don't think we've talked enough about resumes today, that your prices, yeah, well, no, not a catalog resume, but your resume of where you've shown your work and collectors are, and where you went to school, all the things that make you a bona fide professional artist. You know, if you don't have a very full resume, if you're just beginning, you're not going to have much of a resume. You know, so you have to compare to other people that don't have much of a resume, that are doing work that is similar to the work that you're doing. And by similar, it has to be similar in subject matter, maybe similar in the medium that you're using, in the size, you know, so you have to consider all those things. And finally, again, the scarcity. Yes, if you work very slowly, and that's just the way you work, then you're not going to produce as much work. And if you have a waiting list for those works because you work so slowly, then your price can go up. But otherwise, yeah, time doesn't have much to do with it. And again, remember about those early those pieces in a series for a more mature artist, a series that was really popular, and you've sold most of that work. Then there's a scarcity value to that too. So even if you have an edition of say 25 and they sold really fast and you only have 3 left, you could charge more for those last 3 in the edition. Mm-hmm. So you have to compare to the market world that's out there, and galleries are really good at that. Galleries are really, really good at that. This is their business.
The scarcity factor is another thing to take into consideration with limited edition prints as well. So if you only printed, 15 or 20 and you're down to your last 3, Elsie mentioned this to me earlier, you can raise the price for the last 3 that you have. Is that right, Elsie?
The other thing, yes, the one other tip I would add to this conversation, if you're an artist and you're just starting out and you think you have a talent and maybe you didn't go to school, but you're talented and you have a good medium, you think there might be a market, you're figuring out how to price it, exactly what Patricia said, as far as looking at comparables of what they're selling for. But another thing that might be a good idea is to donate your artwork to a nonprofit and have them auction out the work. Because if you're looking to set a base for the value of your work, one of the ways that artwork is appraised is through auctions. So, and that's just the sales comps, and we won't go into the details about retail versus sales comps, but if you are looking to see what your artwork demand is, and you have a pretty good idea of what you want to sell for, you can put the value on it, but then the auction will pretty much depict what you're going to end up selling for. And then you have a number, and that kind of gives you at least a baseline of what you can start with. It's just another tip. It's just another way to find your price point.
You can actually, if you're brand new, you can actually open your studio and have a studio sell and just make things as affordable as possible. And then at least if people have bought your work, you have a baseline as well.
The auction is nice because you'll have a much broader scope.
I agree.
Right.
And people are there to spend money, right? They're there to support the nonprofit. So that's a higher probability that they'll spend a little more money on your work, sounds like. So we're getting very close to our quick art pitch moment. All right. We're getting very close to our quick art pitch moment. I hope that you will be brave. And if this is something you do, you can do it with your eyes closed. Fantastic. Please show us how it's done. If you are not used to pitching your work or your gallery, there's people here who are art collectors. If you're an art collector, we're going to ask that you tell us what kind of work inspires you, what kind of work you're interested in collecting. If you're an artist, tell us a little bit about your work, about the medium that you work in, what inspires you, and if you're involved in the arts in some other fashion, please let us know that as well. Okay, I'm gonna do my art pitch. Hopefully it works and we'll see what happens. So Vanguard culture also sells art. So we definitely want to showcase and share that. Miguel, are you ready with a timer? You're gonna give me 60 seconds.
Yes.
Okay. So
did you already start your
I'm going to
pitch or
start.
not?
I'm going to start in a minute. Yeah. Are you ready? If you're ready, say go
Okay.
when you're ready.
Yes. Standing by. Go.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Okay, go.
Vanguard Culture has an art shop. It is here on our website. You can find it right here, shop the art shop. We are featuring artists, a variety of different artists, and I'm hoping that you can see all of this. Here are some of our art shop artists. We are selling prints inspired by the history of joy, which is a 4-part series, a film series that we're producing. We're also showcasing art by Neil Shigley. All of the artists that we feature are respond to the changes and challenges of our contemporary world. If you happen to be an artist that kind of responds to that call, then we're very interested in working with you. The Hours is another wonderful series by Julia Sandroman. And God, this goes fast. So this is our art shop. Please take a look at it.
That's 1 minute.
I knew it. Okay. I got muted.
That's my job.
But that's what will happen.
I've been waiting to do that.
I kind of was ready, but I was having the tech issues, so it kind of threw me off, everybody. But anyway, you get the point. You're going to have 60 seconds. Please be brave. Have fun with it. Tell us a little bit about what you do, or tell us about what you collect. Okay, so if you are ready, please raise your hand. I'm going to, let's change the view here so we can see everybody available. Please raise your hand or tell us in the chat if you'd like to do your art pitch. Okay, Scott Bruckner, you're going to go first.
Oh boy, get to go
You
first.
Ready? Okay, let me
Yes,
pin
I
you, sir.
am.
Would you like me to just mute everyone at 1 minute or kind of?
Yes.
Or is that too harsh?
No, let's do it. We're muting. You have 60 seconds, the door open to the elevator, and you're done. So that's what you get.
Okay, great.
Okay, ready? Miguel, you tell them when to go.
Yeah. You know what? I'm on standby, so okay, start.
Hello, everybody. My name is Scott Bruckner. I live in Carlsbad, California. I do contemporary wood art, and I'm going to try to share my screen so I can show you a piece of it right now. A lot of sculptors do work that's has a dramatic artistic impact, but it's really unsuitable for display in a home. The pieces that I work on are have the warmth of wood in them, as well as the contemporary look. And this piece right here is a good example. It's called Flying. It's 24 by 7 by 64 inches high. The picture at the right shows it actually sitting on top of a pedestal behind a chair in the corner of a room. So it actually allows 3D art to actually fill up a space. And I feel my work is nice to see on a.
You got muted. Thank you very much, sir. Please raise your hand if you'd like to give us your art pitch. Okay, Maite, you're next. I'm pinning you. And whenever you're ready.
Okay, and go.
Hi, I'm Maite Agania. I live here in San Diego. I'm originally from Mexico. I like to work in different media. The piece behind me was just at the exhibition 20 Women Now at Oceanside Museum of Art. Hope all of you got a chance to see it. It was a great exhibit. That piece is a new series that I'm starting, and it's encaustic, pigment, inks, and I like to mix all kinds of different medium. And I just sold that piece, so I also wanted to share that. And thank you for the opportunity. And I wanted to thank all the panelists that spoke. You gave so much great information and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. You got 15 seconds. That's pretty
Nice
good.
job.
Oh, that's it.
Nice job. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Good job. Okay. Who else? Raise your hand. Okay. Edna, you're next. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, go.
Okay.
1 minute.
Hi, my name is Edna Pines. I represent these, this is acrylic on wood panel with resin finish. The lines represent chapters of your life. They're not always straight forward because life is not linear. Filled with curves and broken obstacles we have to overcome. The petals represents your self-worth, your strength, your resilience, which you have gained that have made you up who you are today. This is part of my Floating Garden series. It is inspired by birds in flight looking down on everything colorful, blooming and growing. And I also use gold leafing on some of my pieces. And my heart is beating so fast. I've never done this elevator 1 minute pitch. So here it is. I'm Iranian.
Okay, that was your 60 seconds. The elevator door opened. Very good job, everybody. Okay, raise your hand. Who's next? Come on, be brave, people. Yes? Okay, Lola, you are next. Let me pin you. Are you ready? Here you go. Whenever you're ready. Make sure you unmute it, okay?
Hi, my name is Lola Victor. I'm originally from San Diego. I'm in upstate New York on a project, and I have my painting studio in Oaxaca City in Mexico. I work very deeply with mysticism and magical realist imagery. I use a refined palette, generally black, white, and metallic gold. I'm working on an upcoming exhibition, and although I'm not in my studio, I'll show you a sketch so you can have a sneak peek. So this will be 2 meters by 2 meters, which is 6 by 6 feet. Yeah, I think that's about it. I have my MFA from CIIS in San Francisco. I studied undergraduate in Tulane. And I'm happy to show anyone a virtual studio visit when I return.
10 seconds left. 10 seconds left. Good job.
Thank you for having me.
Very good job. Thank you. Okay. Raise your hand, please. Who's next? I see folks with art behind them, so I know you're there. Okay, Sheena, you're next. Let me pin you. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Hello. Thank you for having us here today and for all this great information. My name is Shayna Dowling, and I am from San Diego. I am an artist that works in painting and installation. And recently I worked on this piece as part of the illumination show at the San Diego Art Institute, where I was paired with a scientist. This is a fiber optic installation that was in a room that people could walk in and around and interact with. And the majority of my work focuses on the human form, whether it's the microscopic points or the whole figure itself. And I also approach the interactions of the human form and our natural world and what those interactions look like. So sometimes they're abstract and sometimes they're very representational. So thank you very much.
Great job. Okay, you can stop sharing there. Okay, thank you. Let me just, all right, who's still here? Let's see. Raise your hand. You're gonna share with us? Are you a collector? Do we have any collectors that want to tell us what kind of work inspires them, what their collection consists of? Anything that we should be looking out for? Do we have gallerists, collectors, visual artists? Okay, you don't have to. This is your last chance. All right, very good, very good. So, okay, I'm just making sure. I'm bringing back all of our panelists. Unfortunately, John had to head out, but I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. You know, the visual art space can be kind of an up and down experience, but we're so grateful to have these wonderful speakers here who represent San Diego's arts community so well and take care of us. If you have questions, please go ahead and reach out to them directly. Many of them have put their information on the chat so that you can reach out to them. If not, please go ahead and do that now. And if you're an artist, thank you for the good work that you do. Artists are doing very, very important work right now, and don't forget that, okay? Art has saved us through the pandemic, and you have been doing really important work. I say that artists are second responders, and so it looks like we have another year of this to go, unfortunately. So stay inspired, you know, continue doing your good work. And a big thanks to all of our wonderful speakers, Sonia Sparks, Elsie Ardando, Johnny Tran, Alejandro Salazar, John Stock, and Patricia Fisher. Thank you so much for your wonderful time and expertise and creative brilliance. We so appreciate you. Bye, everybody. If you want to follow up on this talk, it will be available to you. We will send that out to you. You can follow Vanguard Culture on social media at Vanguard Culture, at Culturally Savvy, or vanguardculture.org to be a part of the season. We hope this conversation was helpful to you. Thank you again for all the wonderful work you do, and be well. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.